Caberet on the Lake. My name's Rob Dorn. I'm an artistic associate with 3Cat Productions. And I'm a vocalist. I sing at the Green Mill. Officially on first Thursday of every month. And it's with the Alan Gressick Swing Shift Orchestra. So it's pretty fun. Anyway, so you should come see that. Self-promotion. All right, so better yet, 3Cat Productions has just cast their show Man of the People. And we're going to be going into rehearsals, and if you go to the 3Cat Productions website, that's where all the information is. And that's my way of telling you, I can't remember when the show starts. Okay. So,
now, why did you call it 3Cat Cabaret?
Oh, okay. Well, there's a good little question. Well, Jason's my partner, and so when we started this, we had 3 cats, and we just sort of came up with that idea, 3Cat Productions. So we had several cats.
A good name.
So anyway, the first person who is going to be performing for you tonight has taken classes here with Eileen Tull, who is also performing tonight at the end of the show. Now I got these bios of everybody. And I never really know, because we don't have programs, you know, we just don't go to a website or something, you know, we can't save a treat. So anyway, I thought it'd be fun to read this as if someone was reading it in a program, then with their thoughts about everything, you know, Judy Parker has extensive training in dance. Dance, huh? I just thought it'd be fun to take a dance class. After dancing in summer stock on the Jersey Shore, the Jersey Shore? Is that a TV show? You get the idea. Or, of course, you know, as a dramatic monologue. But I'm just going to read it to you, and then Judy is going to come up here and tell you a story. So here's her bio. Judy Parker has extensive training in dance. After dancing in summer stock on the Jersey Shore, she decided that it is much, much better to be an actor, getting laughs. She continued studying acting, singing, and more dance in NYC after playing Lena Lamont in Singing in the Rain. Again in Jersey. She ventured into doing stand-up comedy in New York City for 9 years. Some people who she performed with are either famous or dead. Most are probably okay. In Chicago, which she loves, she enjoyed playing grandmas in both Tony and Tina's Wedding and in Donna and Rocco's Big Fat Italian Wedding. She has been taking classes at Burger Park with an emphasis on writing, and that is the class with Eileen. Is this correct? Yes. The teacher and classes have been fantastic, and she feels so grateful to be in such a supportive atmosphere and lucky to perform in this cabaret. We're lucky to have you. Here's Judy Parker.
All right, yeah, the classes. You have to sign up for the classes. And as I can tell, I don't want to insult anybody, but you get a senior citizen discount, and it's like nothing. I swear to God, you have to take them. See, that's why I signed up. One of the reasons why I signed up, because I came from a family where everything, my dad was a salesman. He got free gas. You know, you could write it off. So it would be like, peaches are 39 cents a pound in South Bend. Everybody in the car. So we'd always, and this, just so you know, 75 cents. Yeah. Yes. And I was out there, I'm looking in the mirror, and it's like, I look pretty good. And then this little girl came up and she said, "Oh, you look like my grandma." I was like, "Oh, thanks, kid." Oh my God. See, this is, okay, I am getting older, but I'm having a problem with just concentration. Because, okay, I see your age and all that, but when I was little, we had 5 TV stations, right? 2, 5, 7, 9, Fox 32. Okay, now there's like a zillion. And meanwhile, since I've been talking, I probably already got 2 texts. You know, it's like you'll be talking or whatever, and then ding, you look at it, it's like, "Hi, Lupe, come to the job fair." I was like, "I'm not Lupe," you know, it's like, yeah. Let me see, hold on, I'm gonna do this. But I'll just tell you, I have 51,608 emails. So I'm totally distracted all the time, you know. But I think I have adult onset ADD. if that's possible. And ADD is like adult deficit. Oh God, I forgot. I think I forgot the cheese on the counter, and it's gonna get all hard. Disorder. So even my prayers are interrupted. You know, I'm distracted. You know, Our Father. Oh, was my dad was supposed to call me today? Hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come. Oh, mangoes I think are still on sale at Jewish. I guess some of those. In the name of the Father. Did I take the chicken out? I'm supposed to be defrosted, but yeah, I'm. You know, I don't know what's going on. I'll tell you about myself. I'm Italian. I know I don't look it. We were non-practicing Italians. I have. Where's the host guy? I have 5 cats. Ha ha! 5 cats. Yes. I know I don't have children. They're really my children. And why I don't have children? I saw the video. It's like, oh my God. It was such pain and dirt and oh my God. But I do know what pain is. Have you ever eaten a jalapeno pepper with chapped lips? That is pain. Okay. Let's see. I was a modern dance major in college. Oh, what a door opener that is. That's why my financial success I am today. No, I would go to job interviews. Judy, do you know Microsoft Word? No, but is this okay? Yeah. I would go to interviews too. And now you go to an interview, and the interviewer, let's say when I was 30 years old, that person wasn't even an egg yet. They're so young. And when they'll ask me questions, and I'll be answering, and I'll be like, blah, 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 blah. Or maybe I shouldn't say more than blah, 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 but I'll be blah, 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 blah. They're not hearing what I'm saying. They're seeing me and thinking, oh, I can't see. Where's my cane? They're just, young people, it's like if I tell them my real age, it's like they think they're going to catch it. Like, oh my God. Stop.
They are.
They are. Right. I just moved from Edgewater. Most of you from Edgewater? No? You are? Well, I had to move because my landlord sold their building to Russian mobsters. Oh, we're going to raise your rent $600. And everybody's like, oh my God. And they said, well, you'll just have to budget. Yeah. So, no, I'm always late with everything. The thing about, I never thought that living takes so long. No, it's so long to just be living. You have to get up and you wash your face and then you have to go make your breakfast. You eat it. You got dishes. Now you got to dress and then take a shower, or maybe the other way around. And then you have to go to work, and then you have to buy more groceries, and it's like, oh my God, there's so much to do all the time just living. Oh my God. But yeah, we moved to Rogers Park, and like I said, we're a little bit behind. We're just opening up. It's been a year. We're opening up, unpacking some of the boxes from my 1999 move. So, yeah, I know. Let me see some other jobs. Wait, what am I talking about? I have to tell you why I perform. It's my father. My father's the one who got me into this. Well, first of all, when I was little, my dad and I were very close. Because, me being the firstborn son, we would be together all the time. So we would watch war movies and John Wayne and stuff like that. And my dad would say, oh, this is America. You can be anything you want. So I'd be watching TV and like somebody was a senator and a detective and a spy and nurse, doctor. It's like, wow. And then as soon as they started growing boobs, it was like, well, since you're a girl, you can be either secretary, teacher, or nurse.
Or a dental hygienist.
Yeah. Well, I decided I'd be a gym teacher so I could wear shorts and play all day. It's not that I wanted to be a gym teacher or anything like that. But let me see. I ended up doing some kind of like weird jobs. I was not a secretary, but I was a receptionist. I worked for a Korean bank. Yeah. Everybody's name was Lee. People would call up, is Mr. Lee there? Probably. Oh my God. But yeah, back to my dad. He's the one who got me into performing. So what happened? We were at, I was born in Pennsylvania in a small town called Tyrone. So we would go to Tyrone, and my dad took me over to this guy's house. And he's like, tell Dubby what about your fire truck. It's like, okay. Dubby, first of all, this town, there was nothing. The only thing that people had to do was to either make up nicknames or die. So everybody had a nickname, you know. There's like Dubby, Decky, Howdy. I had an Uncle Caddy. That was short for Cutter. His real name was Eugene, but even his nickname had a nickname. So my dad, go tell Dubby, you know, about the fire truck. So I started telling him, and he's laughing and laughing. I'm like, oh, this is great. Oh, okay, I gotta tell you, I had a speech impediment at the time, and my T's sounded like F's. So I was telling Dubby about my fire truck, and it's like, I was killing! Oh my God. God, it was great. Oh my God. So, let's see here. Oh, I told you about the boobs and all that business. You know, I found out that I'm a product really of my dad's thinking, you know? I mean, what he said to me. Like, I have shorts on, which I think is God's intended way for us to dress. We're supposed to, shorts all the time. That's true. But the reason, if I would have like clothes on like most of you, I would hear in my head, Jenny Parker, get in here and change your clothes, you're gonna get dirty! Okay, so I'm always really casual. I know I don't have eye makeup on, not because I'm against eye makeup, but I can't find it. So, I don't know, I get mascara. I know there's like 3 or 4 in the house. I don't know if they have wings and they fly away or whatever. Do you know what I was talking about? Because I don't remember. What? What was I talking about?
Fire truck?
Oh, that! Oh my God! Yeah. Well, anyway, I got inspired by watching TV, and I know because a lot of you are here for the Caberet, and you're like, "Oh, where's the music? I thought it was going to be music." Well, okay, I would be watching the old variety shows, like something like Carol Burnett, and a lot of times they'd have an opera singer come on, like Beverly Sills. And I always thought it was so weird. They would always sing some popular song to show everybody how cool they were. You know, it was like, let's dance, shout, shake your body down to the ground, let's dance, shout, woo! Shake your body down to the ground. If I fell in love with you, would you promise to be true and help me? All right, and on that note, thank you very much.
All right, well, the next performer is another storyteller who also took classes here with Eileen. And his name is Matthew Amix. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Good. I can sometimes butcher names. Matthew Lee Amix is a Texan-turned Chicagoan storyteller, crafting and sharing narratives at performance events, as well as at Loyola University, where he is a history PhD student. I did that all in one breath, I think. Wow. He has taken improv classes at The Annoyance, one-person theater with the Chicago Parks District, and has performed at several venues, especially at Serving the Sentence at the Heartland Cafe. He is currently writing a one-person play themed around Doritos tortilla chips, which he hopes to put into production by next spring, and I have to see this play. Here's Matthew.
Long, long long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me. The main thing I regret about my childhood is that I cannot remember it very well at all. It's not because I took a lot of drugs or hit my head or something. I just was never good at remembering my childhood. And my friends would remember things from like preschool and when they were a toddler. And I'm like, what? You remember being potty trained, breastfeeding? What? It didn't make any sense to me. I just couldn't remember anything about my childhood. I could remember little bits and pieces about reading, but that was about it. I could regret my very religious upbringing. It was very traditional and kind of restricted. We were very sheltered and isolated. We were homeschooled. But that also, even the parts that I didn't like about that, made me who I am today. So I really can't wish that away, because I like me. But I wish I could remember more of it. The picture really doesn't start coming in clear until I was about 8 or 9 years old, when I remember something pretty specific happening. My mom had taken me and my, I think at the time, 2 siblings to Walmart at midnight. Now, that's not actually that weird for us. As I said before, we were homeschooled. This is a situation where you don't have to be anywhere at any particular time ever, and therefore we would be up until 2, 3 in the morning. That was normal. It was very strange. And that may be also part of the reason why I can't remember anything. Because being homeschooled, we didn't go through regular grades, we didn't go through regular rites of succession in life. And my mom was a lot like Mr. Toad from The Wind in the Willows. She was given to manias really bad. She would find a new diet fad, or a new homeschool curriculum, or a new chore system that was going to revolutionize our lives, and everything was going to change and get better. And so she would spend weeks, months, planning the perfect system, and she would go to Walmart at the Container Store and she would buy cubbies and binders and set them all up, and then immediately when she was done, never do any of it. And so I just kind of wandered aimlessly from like 9 to 18, and it's all a blob. But that's why we were at Walmart that night. She was in the home furnishings aisle, sat down with her yellow pad looking at the binders or bins or cubbies, and I, being a typical 9-year-old, wander off. Now, you know how kids don't wander off like immediately, right? They kind of gradually drift away in concentric circles like escaping moons from planets and things. You know, you kind of walk to the end of the aisle and see if they were watching you, and then you go to the next aisle, but then hop back on the aisle to make sure. And then when you realize you've been completely forgotten and ignored, you wander off to where you want to go. Now, most kids, if the grocery store, or not the grocery store, the department store, they're going to go to the toy aisle, or maybe you go to the cereal aisle, read the games on the back of the box. But my favorite place to go was the board game aisle. I loved it. It was a place where you could play these games. You could be, you know, anything. You know, we had the vanilla games at home, you know, Monopoly or Scrabble Men, and I wanted the games that were very immersive. Risk, or even better yet, the game Life. You know the game Life, right? You get to figure out what you're going to be, and if you're going to go to school, and if you're going to have kids, and if you're going to get married. And it was, I think, a measure of, I wanted that because it was a measure of control in a life where I had no control over anything. Ironically, in the game of Life, you don't get to pick whether you will have children or not, but you can pick the gender of those children. Little pink and blue pins. And so as I was looking at the game of Life on the shelf, I began to notice there was a song playing on the radio. But February made me shiver with every paper I delivered. Bad news on the doorstep. Well, I couldn't take one more step. And I can't remember if I cried when I read about his widowed bride. Something touched me deep inside the day. The music died. And I felt there, 9 years old, midnight at the Walmart, this crushing, inexplicable, overwhelming sadness. And it just crumbled me to the floor. And even though I was way too old for it, I just laid on the floor and was sad. I wasn't unused to this. I did that a lot as a kid, actually. I would lay in bed a lot, in the top bunk, about 18 inches from the ceiling, looking at the spackling in the wall. Yeah, I got the top bunk. Yeah, I fell off a few times. It didn't hurt me, I was asleep. But I would often lay awake, terrified and sad, because I was afraid I was going to die in my sleep. Mom would be talking, I'd overhear Mom talking with her friends about SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, and I would hear of elderly relatives who'd passed on in their sleep, and it's even right there in the prayer, if I die before I wake. This seemed like a really real threat. It could happen any day. You're literally going to bed, you're taking your life into your hands, and it would make worse by the fact that I would get like sleep paralysis sometimes. Like I would wake up, my head, but I couldn't move, and I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't contact anyone, and I could hear them all moving around, and I'd try to force something out to get them to hear me, and it felt like hours, but it was surely just a few, 30 seconds or something, otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But then I'd come out of it, and then I'd be too embarrassed to say anything. Hey, I almost died just there, laying there. So I didn't say anything, but I was just terrified. And it was worse because I was afraid that I was going to burn alive in hell. We were raised very evangelical, very, very fundamentalist, and I did the thing where, I'd walk forward in the church, I would pray the prayer, I got baptized. I did it all twice, in fact. But I never felt secure in that, because on the one hand, the Bible said that God created me, and here's the rules, but Bill Nye said that we evolved, and there's dinosaurs and things, and the earth is, things are very different, and I never believed enough to feel that secure in everything, and I never doubted enough to not be afraid of going to hell. And so I would just be afraid. But as I would lie awake in bed at night, I knew why I was afraid. I knew I was sad, but that night at Walmart, I had no clue. And after some time, my parents run up, they find me, and they're like, "What are you doing? You're way too old for this. Get off the floor. What's wrong with you?" And I was a good kid, and I would feel really guilty if I did anything wrong. And I would apologize, but I couldn't apologize then. I tried to explain, "No, you don't understand. I couldn't help it." I was so sad. And a few years later, I learned the lyrics and the story behind the song. Don McLean's American Pie, and it's about the day that several music artists, most notably among them Buddy Holly, died in a plane crash in 1959. And I thought to myself, oh, that's why I was sad. It's about a sad thing. Even though it's kind of a peppy song, it's just a sad song. But then, a few years later, I learned about a different song. Just you know why you and I will by and by know true love ways. Buddy Holly wrote True Love Ways as a wedding gift for his wife. And a couple months later, he recorded it. And a couple months later, she was pregnant with their first child. And a couple months later, He was dead in a cornfield in Iowa. Shortly afterwards, she miscarries. Maria Holly was regretted the rest of her life that she wasn't on the plane with her. You know, life. You figure out where you go to school, what you're going to be, if you're going to get married, whether you have kids. And then one day, you close your eyes, and you don't wake up. I regret that I can't remember much about my childhood. But unlike Don McLean, I can remember that I cried when I read about his widowed bride. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm just going to go. No, I'm sorry. Oh, wow, that was great. All right, we have a... All right, now we have a comedian. Her name's Paletta Cleanza. No. Let me see if I can get this right. Danny?
Hey, what's up?
Gallegos.
Gallegos.
Okay. Gallegos?
Gallegos.
Gallegos.
Yeah.
There we go. I mean, you should hear what I've done to names. Well, she's a stand-up comedian who hails from the swamps of Jersey, but resides in Chicago. She's been making audiences all over the country cringe while telling jokes and stories based on her life and her perpetually replenishing supply of teen angst. She is a co-creator of the Shameful Storytelling Show and podcasts We Still Like You. You can catch her doing stand-up around Chicago or in a dark bar hitting on your older brother and getting kicked out for trying to smoke inside.
Hey, how's it going? Whoa. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
This like whole person to flames.
Oh, you know, that old thing, that old story that always happens. Cool. All right. So, how are you guys doing tonight? Good. Cool. Give it up for your host and Laura for putting this all together. Give it up for all the performers you've seen tonight. What a lovely and fantastic show. Also, the acoustics in here are great. I don't need a microphone ever again. I was walking, I was maybe about a year ago around this time, and I was walking and I took a wrong turn and I ended up in like kind of a bad neighborhood. I was looking around and I was like, oh, I'm not here very often. I don't really feel comfortable. I was in Wrigleyville. And I was just walking, trying to get out of there, minding my own business, and a car pulls up alongside me, and a guy with a Cubs hat pops his head out the window, and he goes, "Hey, you!" And I'm like, huh? And he's like, "Why don't you go back to where you came from?" I know. And I just went, "I'm from New Jersey, and I miss my dad." Like, can you get me over there? I miss him, and I miss bagels. But I am from New Jersey, and when I tell people that, they like to do this like really cute thing where they're just like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I'm like, I don't know where you wanted me to be from. Like, if I had been like, I'm from Nebraska, what would you have said? You would have just been like, oh, that's nice. And it's like, well, where are you from? Oh, you're from right here? That's not a map, that's your hand. Nobody knows what you're doing. Put it down, Michigan. Like, who would you rather go out to dinner with? Oprah and Bruce Springsteen? Or like a trash can that's on fire, a burned down factory, and an animate bottle of Faygo doing knife tricks in the corner? I'm not trying to shit on Michigan. We're actually honest. I feel like we're two sides of the same coin. But people from Michigan are the only ones that do this. Like, I don't do this when I say I'm from New Jersey. But I don't know. I don't think being from New Jersey is bad. I was, however, once at the only 4 a.m. bar in Palatine, Illinois, because we all make bad decisions. I was there and I was talking to a guy named Greg with 3 G's in his name. And I know that because I was getting great reception. Just kidding. I know that because his best friend that he was with was named Greg, and he had 2 G's, and that's how you could tell the difference. Greg asks me where I'm from, and I say New Jersey, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I was like, "Greg, we are at the only 4 a.m. bar in all of Palatine, Illinois. Where are you from that is more interesting than New Jersey?" And he goes, "Well, I'm from right here." And I was like, "Oh, what, did 10 Bob Seger songs play in the jukebox and you just sprouted out of it?" Because that would be the only thing that's more interesting. I'm not saying that New Jersey is better than anywhere else, but what I am saying is that, like, it can't be worse than, I don't know, all of Arkansas. Like, what has Indiana ever done for you? I don't know. But anyway, so this is my voice. I have to live with it. I am fine with it. But I have learned that if I'm not actively trying to inflect my voice, that there's a hint of insincerity to it. My best friend, an emergency contact for the last 6 years of my life, told me that I have the vocal equivalent of an eye roll. And he just has to constantly remind himself that I'm not being mean. Like, I'm saying a nice thing. I said, "Your mustache looks great." But yeah, I'm fine with it, except I work in restaurants. I work in, like, front-facing customer service jobs, and especially early in the morning, I'm, like, absolutely not trying with my voice at all. And one morning, I was at work, and a customer comes up to me. It's like 9 in the morning, and he's like, "Hey, do you guys have any Baileys here?" And I said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, we're an Argentinian restaurant." But what I think he heard was, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, we're an Argentinian restaurant." You fucking idiot. Because he responded with, "Oh, I didn't know that Argentina and Ireland were in a war. I had no idea that the tensions were so high between Argentina and Ireland." And I was just like, man, it is 9 in the morning on an 89-degree day, and you are yelling at me about milky liquor. Like, this doesn't seem like a me problem. But yeah, I work in restaurants. I was briefly a bartender at a strip club down in Austin, Texas. And it was fun. It was a fun job. I enjoyed it. It was about as wild as you're probably expecting or, like, imagining in your mind. It was really nice. I don't know. I had, like, a whole patio bar to myself. It was pretty cool. And this male customer was, I guess, trying to, like, court me or something. And he was, like, I guess trying to make me feel better about myself, and I was just like, I feel fine. But he, like, points over his shoulder over to one of the dancers, and he goes, "You know you're better than her, right?" And I was like, "Sir, she makes like 1,000 a night and barely tries. I make 150 in a Klonopin that I could sell for a little bit more on a good night. And you, sir, have decided that your best Friday night is spending $50 to get a boner next to your best friend." Like, I feel like you don't get to, like, decide the hierarchy of the women in the strip club. Like, she calls getting money from men stealing. That's what the dancers in the club did. I'm just saying no one's better than a stripper, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I got fired from that job, and I'll tell you how. The strip club in Austin, Texas, of course, decided to start serving brunch. Which is such a wild concept. Nobody showed up except for a bunch of weirdos who wanted to watch the World Series of Poker, and like their Comcast bill had just gotten cut off. So I would show up regularly like 2 hours late because I'm not gonna show up at 9 a.m. to a strip club. That's so sad. And one day, the manager, who I had never seen in broad daylight, like storms out onto the patio, and he's like, "Danny, at what other job do you think that you could regularly show up 2 hours late and still have a job?" And then I noticed in that moment that he had spider webs tattooed all across his face. And I was like, "Do you really want to ask me that question when you have fucked up Spider-Man fan art on your face and you're a manager?" And he was like, "You gotta get out." And I was like, "I was never here." But that's the only job I've ever been fired for, and I stand by it. I don't get along with my mother. I like to say that I come from a long line of Disney villains, which just means I got like a lot of real mean, pretty ladies in my family. And yeah, I don't know. I don't get along with her because she doesn't get along with her mother, and it's like this whole thing. Like, my grandmother is Maleficent. She's like the source of all evil in the world. When she dies, Trump will die. The Middle East will be like, "Why were we fighting?" And my mom is like a watered down version of that, and I'm just kind of a bitch. But I don't get along with my mother, but I do know that she does still love me, because about 8 years ago, she watched a documentary on human trafficking. And every once in a while, I don't know, she just wakes up in a cold sweat and she decides to start emailing me like once an hour, every hour, and she's like, "Daniela, what are you doing? Tell me where you are." And she lives in Argentina. I don't know what she thinks she could do. But when I'm finally not at work and I decide to respond, I'm just like, "Hey, Mom, I was at work. Please chill out." And she goes, "Absolutely not. Daniela, I will not chill out. You are going to get taken and you are going to get sold on the black market for parts." And it is incredible to finally hear her tell me that I'm worth something.
We now have writer-performer Bob Lawrence. And for the last 15 years, Bob Lawrence has delighted audiences at coffee houses, taverns, art galleries, art festivals, libraries, and other venues with poetry. There's a comma after that. And other venues with poetry, comedy, puppetry, and on an occasion, original music. His first chapbook, Rock and Roll Dreams and Other Poems, published by Naked Mannequin Press in 2009, is available through Pudd'nhead Press. His new book, In Japan, a multi-themed and multi-styled encounter with the culture of Japan, where his older son's family lives, has just been released by Lagoon's Editions. Now I'm just trying to see how long I can hold my breath for life. Poems of his have been published in a number of magazines and anthologies. Two earlier plays, The Crisis and Pantalones Pizzeria, were produced at the Playwrights Center, another, The Lost World, at the Puppet Place. Please welcome Bob Lawrence.
Hello, everybody. This is my agent, Sam. I let him perform with me once, and he became stage struck. They love me. He insisted on coming here tonight. There's a solarium. Iguanas love solariums. It's kind of dark, Sam. However, why don't you just get on with your poem so I can get on to my own stuff, okay? Your new surprise poem? It's a limerick. People love limericks. There once was a young man named Jock who was blessed with an enormous... I don't like where this is going, Sam. Clock! One day in a big hissy fit, he smashed it to bits. 'cause it went tick, but never went talk. Okay, Sam, you have problems, Bobby. We all have problems, Sam. We all have problems. And one of mine is you. Now, a lot of my poems are humorous, and we tend to think of poetry as being ultra serious, but I see poets and comics as fellow workers in the fields of incongruity and the gardens of ambiguity. Besides, I've gone through some, strange, funny things in my own life. Like my first wife, for instance. 6 months into the marriage, she gets really heavy into Hindu meditation. So one day, this apartment's reeking of incense, there's sitar music on the stereo. She stops her chanting to speak to me. Bob, I want a celibate marriage. Instead of having sex, we can meditate together. Honey, I told her, I'm 26, not 96. A celibate marriage, that's like going to a restaurant and eating the napkins. Well, that one kind of wound up in divorce court. So I was single for a while. It was really rough times. And it was kind of like going out every day was almost like going out on the Titanic. I tell you. But I finally met my second wife. Who happened to have 3 cats, by the way. And they would scream at 5 o'clock in the morning to get fed, and I wasn't getting enough sleep, but I'm like sleepwalking through the day. So I figured out what I would do is I would set an alarm clock to go off at 7, and that would stop them, They'd wait till the alarm clock. Pavlovian in training. So what happened is the cats at 5 o'clock jumped on the counter and screamed at the clock. I found that they were afraid of slippers, however, and that quieted them down. My second wife is kind of different from my first wife. She's much more materialistic, kind of a world-class shopaholic. Like one time she went wild in a dollar store and we had to get a home equity loan. And then one day I told her that there's this planet where it's raining diamonds. So the next day I get up and there's a spacesuit next to me on the bed. But now, how about a poem? All right. The small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff, Bobby. People have been telling me that from the year 1. But the small stuff still drives me nuts. I'm standing in line at the Jewel in the express lane. The sign says 10 items or less. I'm holding a 6-pack and a bag of chips. The guy in front of me is emptying 30 items onto the conveyor belt. Did you forget how to pass 10? Did you flunk kindergarten? How do you spell inconsiderate? And Mr. Cashier, why don't you do your job? Tell him to move his massive order to the next aisle. Oh, you don't want to offend him, huh? Well, you're offending me. I'm on the train. I'm trying to push out of my mind the big stuff that can happen. The train lighting on fire. The tracks lighting on fire. The train falling off the tracks. The train terrorized by a terrorist or a run-of-the-mill nut job. I ooze into my crossword puzzle. Peace at last. And then a woman screamed into her cell phone, David, you know how I love you! Well, I hope David knows, because now the whole train car knows. Is David hard of hearing? Do you enjoy exposing your voice the way a pervert exposes his body? Next time, send a text. Ah, the small stuff, the small stuff. Like the yellow droplets sprinkled on the toilet seat. The birds screeching at 3 in the morning when I want to go to sleep. The computerized voice on the other end of the line when I want to talk to a person. Representative, representative. And sometimes I wonder, why does the small stuff bother me so much? Is it because I have a rage for order? A loathing for absurdity? Is it that each little bit of small stuff is like a splinter and I feel pain when splinters needle me? Or is it because I'm walking on a path with only one way to go, forward? And the small stuff, the little bits of small stuff, are pebbles in my path. I kick them hard and they clatter. And their clattering draws my attention away from what's at the end of the path. An unforgiving, deep, deep abyss. Anyway, that was sort of a slam, kind of a mixture of a slam poem and a stand-up. And I thought I'd read a real poem for you, okay? Why isn't this off book? I just can't get this one off book, Sam. I don't know. I've tried. Try better. Okay. Who remembers the most? Someone I know once said, people who are forgotten remember the most. The forgotten, those slighted by others, the perpetually uninvited, the oddballs, the losers, 700 solo old people curling up in a summer heat wave, streetwalkers and street people, junkies and the bedlam bound, all dancing on the margins of the forgetful city, acutely remembering their slight. What do they remember more than I do? The eye of the poet consumes the past like a holy fire. I remember my recurring dream, my mother and me on the elevated platform in the Bronx. She grabs my hand and we jump. I remember picking all the wild strawberries in the vacant lot down the block and feeling guilty that I hadn't left any. I remember my aunt perched on the windowsill of her 7th floor Brooklyn apartment, threatening with the high-pitched voice of hysteria, "I'll jump!" I remember my mother, bluer than blue, copying Donald Duck cartoons and asked me, "Do I have any artistic talent, Bobby?" I remember my father turning my old bedroom into a brewery. I remember the wine-like taste of the beer. I remember his putting a lock on the door so my mother couldn't get in and drink herself into homemade oblivion. I remember the bad trip. The walls of a room turning into wax, rippling in bright, colorful waves, while the stereo playing the Stones behind the wall became visible to me. I remember descending through this cubist space into an insomniac cycle of elation and paranoia, and winding up in an observation ward for the variously tormented, where, seeing Mr. Pope, an elderly black man, play his poker hand with complete concentration, I realized with gut-level certainty that indeed all men are created equal. I remember sneaking a tube of liver sausage into a Hindu nunnery for my first wife, who had left me for God. I remember my second wife screaming how much she loved me, then forgetting the next day. I remember my first son burning with undiagnosed fever. I remember standing in the shower muttering, "Take me, but leave the kid alone." I remember my second son's night terrors, talking simultaneously to us and the insects and other creatures in his dreams. I remember my son playing his own jazz song of such ineffable beauty that I thought, yes, I'm going to die someday, but it's okay. And I remember speaking the words of my poems and people listening. I remember most. People won't forget me, will they? And let me leave you with a little... Let me leave you with a little haiku. Is that the ocean? No, just the wind through late summer leaves. Thank you.
Well, I've been feeling old. So, for my birthday, my friend took me to a spa, a med spa. That's short for medical. They can make old go away. After a full body scan in a scary fluorescent lighted booth, a handsome man, a real doctor, gave me my happy birthday news. He said, "Well, ma'am, you've got crow's feet, cellulite, nasal folds, hammer toes, spongy, saggy, dimply, dumpy, droopy earlobes, muffin tops, sunspots, bingo arms, bat wings, and several stringy, unidentifiable thingies. Pores the size of the Azores on your nose. Marionette lines enough to circle the globe. What were you, a puppet? Laugh and cry and lie and whine and wink and kink and stink and think and wiggling, giggling, jiggling, humming and bumming and coming and strumming and gumming and coming and coming and laughing all the time. Unfortunately, it looks like you're alive. But don't worry, it's your birthday. You can be beautiful again. So beautiful again. Don't you want to be beautiful? I bet you were so beautiful back then. A real knockout then. Oh, don't you want to be beautiful again? Oh, I do. Good. Let's begin. We'll exfoliate, excoriate, hydrate, percolate, levitate, incinerate, and excommunicate your flab. Moisturize, luminize, terrorize, exorcise, tighten, lighten, darken, heighten, and Botox the pox off your droopy earlobes. Then we'll shrink wrap the pores on your nose. Liposuck and tummy tuck for the rest of what's loose. We've got a double birthday bonus today. A butt scoop and a boopy 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 boost. A boopy boost. Don't you wanna a butt scoop? Oh, I bet you were so beautiful then. You can be beautiful again. Don't you want to? Don't we all want to? Don't we want to be beautiful? A girl loved a sailor, her sailor loved the sea, had a leaky dory, hot pink catch, and a bow-legged cat called Lady Ebony. Her sailor navigated angling stars as the girl told for supper, snagged an oyster bar, but the expert at dead reckoning was Lady Ebony. Black cats are very good luck at sea. They sailed to the Seychelles, San Nicolas, Isla Magdalena, Avalon, and Atlantis, and San Miguel. And sometimes, when the wind was right, they'd set the sea anchor, drift all night, drinking salty dawn, dancing, the horn piping, singing all the words to the Eddystone Light. Oh, let the wind blow. Oh, let the wind blow. Oh, for life on the rolling sea. that sailor, he's resting in the lee, but I got a daughter, loves the sea. She's a feisty surfer with a hot pink board and a Lady Ebony. They head out to Ray Bay to catch some sweet rise, but warning, toxic runoff, what a drag. Dolphins, the surfing PCBs, and target bags. And the fish are loving it up in Taco Bell cups filled with oil. Kids collect plastic, is forever shells. Albatross are choking, whales are looking pale, and I'm sitting here sucking my plastic bottle and twirling my Cupid doll head. Oh, let the wind blow. Oh, let the wind blow. Oh, for life on a synthetic sea. My father was the keeper of the Eddystone Light, slept with a mermaid one fine night. Of that union there came three, a porpoise and a porky, and the other was me, yo-ho. Oh, let the wind blow. Oh, let the wind blow. Let the wind blow free. Oh, let the wind blow. Oh, let the wind blow. Oh, for life on the rolling sea.
Laura, why don't you tell them about the podcast?
Well, thank you so much. I mean, oh my gosh. Well, do you want to come up to me and talk about it?
Sure.
The podcast we've had for almost 5 years. We interview artists of all different kinds, mostly theater people. So yeah, anything you want to say?
It's a weekly interview show.
Yeah.
Like you would interview Tom Cruise, but for people you don't know. So
You have cards out there, right?
We do.
Okay, yeah, so make sure you grab a card. That's all.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Check out 3catproductions.com
Yes.
for all the information about everything that they
Yes.
do. Artist incubator and
All
that great stuff.
New work. You'll never see Oklahoma here, okay? And he's been doing this for several years. That's amazing.
Yeah?
You and Jason.
Well,
So-
really, Jason.
Yeah, well, you too. You're a founding, very, very, very important
Jason,
artist. This is an artistic home for me, so we really want this to be a safe place for people to try new things and.
Yeah, it really is great. I mean, I actually had the experience. I wrote the book for a musical that was just produced, and so someone who wants to be a playwright or is interested in doing it and doesn't really quite know what to do, there's all sorts of series of different levels of classes and events that you can take part in.
Yeah.
And who knows, you might end up writing a play and getting produced. So thanks for coming, you guys.
Thank you so much for coming.